This is Two Ladies Midwest Adventures. I'm Julietta, and I'm reading Heaven is for Real. We are on chapter 21. Most of that summer passed without any new revelations from Colton, though I'm sure we played What Does Jesus Look Like game on our vacation, with Colton giving a thumbs down to every picture we saw. It had gone to the point where instead of asking him, is this one right? Sonia and I started asking right off the bat, so what's wrong with this one? August came, and it was Imperial Annual Claim to Fame, the Chase Country Fair, next to the state fair itself. Ours is the largest county fair in western Nebraska, in Imperial and the towns for miles around. It is the event of the year for an entire week in late August. Imperial swells from a population of 2,000 to somewhere around 15,000. Businesses altered their houses or shut down recently, and even the banks closed at noon so that the whole community can turn out for concerts. Rock on Friday night, country on Saturday night. Vendors and spinning rides and lights of huge carnival midway. Every year we look forward to the sights, sounds and scents of the fair. Kettle corn, barbecue, and Indian tacos. Taco fix piled in on a slab of flatbread. Country music floating out, the Ferris wheel rising above it all, visible from all over town. This fair is definitely a Midwestern event, with a 4-H livestock judging for the best bull, best horse, best hog, that kind of thing, along with the kids' favorite, mutton bussin'. In case you've never heard of mutton busting, that's where a child is placed on a sheep, and he or she tries to ride it as long as possible without falling off. There's a huge trophy for each age group. 5 though 7, in fact, in the place trophy is usually taller than a little competitor. There's definitely a down-home, small-town flavor to our fair. As one lemonade interpreter found out the hard way one year, that gentleman decided he could sell more of his delicious beverage using what you might call the Hooters approach to marketing. After a night or two, a string of folks complained about the scantily clad female sales team in his booth. A couple of concerned citizens finally had to get him to tell the lemonade girls needed to put on more clothes. Still, it seemed he did have quite a long line at his stand for those couple of nights. In August 2004, Sonia and I set up a booth on the Midway interest out of town. Fair visitors in our garage door business. But as always, I had to carve out time to balance that business with the business of caring for our congregation. One warm afternoon during the fair week, all 4 of us, Sonia and I, and the 2 kids, were tending the booth, passing out brochures and chatting with prospective customers. But I needed to break away and drive a few blocks over the Imperial Manor nursing home to visit a man named Harold Greer. At the time, Harold's daughter, Gloria Marshall, played keyboard on our township team at church, and her husband, Danielle, was serving as my assistant pastor and worship leader. Harold himself, a minister most of his life, was in his 80s and dying. I knew he was closing in on his last months and that I needed to pray and pay another visit to support Daniel and Gloria, and to pray with Harold at least one more time. When you're a pastor, volunteer, firefighter, wrestling coach, business owner trying to juggle all the pins without letting any fall, you learn pretty quickly that children are highly portable. For her part, Sonia was serving as a pastor's wife, a full-time job in itself, plus a mom, teacher, library volunteer, and secretary for the family business. Over the years, we had developed the habit that if we weren't formally going to work, we'd pick a kid and take him or her with us. And soon that afternoon, in charge of our van door booth and I charged my van door booth and strapped Colton into his car seat in my truck and headed over to the nursing home. Colton peered out the window as we passed the Ferris wheel on our way off the fairgrounds. We're going to see Gloria's dad, Harold, at the nursing home, I said. He's not doing well and probably doesn't have much time left. Harold gave his life to Jesus a long time ago and is getting ready to go to heaven. Colton didn't look away from the window. Okay, Daddy. The nursing home is a sprawling one-story building with a huge dining room off the front lobby, which also houses a giant indoor bird cage filled with finches that flit and tweet and generally bring the outdoor indoors. When I peeked into Harold's room, I saw Daniel and Gloria, along with 3 or 4 family members, including a couple I knew to be Harold's other daughters. And Daniel stood. Hey, Pastor Todd, he said as I folded his handshake into a hug. Gloria stood and I hugged her too. The family greeted Colton, who hung onto my hand as he dispensed quiet hellos. I turned to Harold's bed and saw that he was laying very still, drawing in deep breaths spaced at wide intervals. I had seen men and women at this phase of the end of life many times. When they reach their last moments, they slip in and out of consciousness, and even while awake, and in and out of lucidity. I turned to Gloria. How's your dad doing? I asked. He's hanging on, but I don't think he has much longer. She said. Her face was brave, but I could see her chin quiver as she spoke. Just then, Harold began to moan softly and twist under a sheet that covered him. One of Gloria's sisters stood up and walked over to the bed, whispered comforting words, and returned to her seat by the window. I walked over and stood at Harold's head, Colton trailing me like a tiny shadow. Thin and balding, Harold was lying on his back, his eyes barely open, lips slightly parted. He breathed in through his mouth and seemed to hold it in, as if squeezing every last oxygen molecule from it before exhaling it again. I looked down and saw Colton peering up at Harold. A look of utter calm and assurance on his face. I laid my hand on the old minister's shoulder, closed my eyes and prayed aloud, reminding God of Harold's long and faithful service, asking that the angels would make his journey quick and smooth, and that God would receive his servant with great joy. When I finished the prayer, I turned to rejoin the family. Colton started back across the room with me. Then he spun around, went on his heel, and turned to Colton's bedside. As we watched, Colton reached up and grabbed Harold's hand. It was an E.F. Hutton moment. Everyone watched intently, listening. Colton peered earnestly up into Harold's face and said, It's going to be okay. The first person you're going to see is Jesus. His tone was matter-of-fact, as though he were describing something as real and familiar as the town fire station. Daniel and Gloria exchanged looks, and a surreal feeling washed over me. By then I was used to hearing Colton talk about heaven, but now he had become a messenger, tiny tour guide for a departing heavenly traveler. That is the end of chapter 21. Like and subscribe so we can get to 1,000 subscribers to start beekeeping. Jay's not down here, so I can't pester her right now, but stay blessed and make the world a better place, one person, one at a time. Bye.
Like and subscribe so we can get to 1,000 subscribers so we can start beekeeping.
Okay.